I greet you all this morning in the various tongues of the African nations. Hello and welcome. Yesterday, our father, his presentation. This morning, I call upon the gods of the land of the people of Cameroon. I call upon the gods of the people of the land of Angola. I call upon the gods of the people of the Congo. For these are the gods that predominantly flow through my veins. We ask that you guide this conversation and that in the mission to uplift, motivate, and inspire. Poi and Sertadola for asking me, Anita M. Jope, the Executive Director of the African Roots and Heritage Foundation based in Detroit, Michigan in the USA, to be a partner of the new African thought. When the inquiry was made, I was excited because I'm constantly thinking of how we can advance as individuals and as a people. And as I've listened to the various colleagues, my brothers and sisters, scholars, different way, my question is, what is the roadmap that we shall build, and one of us will have a task to complete? That task being, and what Munzi means is this: everything you need is inside of you. Everything you need is inside of you. So what does that mean? That means for Africa, for each individual country, what does that look like? What can we take away from the movie of Black Panther? One, it was a closed society. And you may ask, well, why is that important? The movie, though fantasy, the idea of a closed society has been espoused by great scholars like W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, and others. In the movie Black Panther, it was futuristic, a closed society that relied on no outside aid. They utilized everything from within them to propel them to a place that the outside world wanted. Everything they had, that idea of that titanium. So if each African country and being a closed society, bringing Munzi to the forefront, developing everything that is inside of you. In the United States, such societies were proposed. And the African Americans, no way. That is nothing that they want to be a part of because of the transatlantic slave trade and because the marginalization that they received as feeling like second-class citizens. So the last thing in their mind is that they do not want to be cornered off, possibly left to die or forced to die without the aid of those on the outside. But yet, in the United States, there are several secret and closed societies that thrive very well. There's the Mennonite Society. There's the Amish Society. If you know anything about these societies, they have their own sovereignty within the United States. They make their own products and goods that everyone prefers to purchase. And this is how they make their livelihood. And these societies are mega billionaire societies because they chose not to be part of mainstream America. So what am I saying? What's within you? Your spiritual intellect, your cultural traditions and powers. We have been put under a spell. Many of us have talked about it, danced around the topic. Even Malcolm X said that we had been hoodwinked and bamboozled. And I'm thinking, if we are to go forward with a new African thought, we've talked about shifting the paradigm. We talked about changing our mind. We talked about deconstructing colonialism. But have we really got to the crux of the matter? Have we really gotten to the center of why we are in an oppressed state? Have we gotten to the center of why we can't speak our native languages? Have we gotten to the center of why our scientists are not propelled in this world? It goes back to 1449 when the Dame de Verses was written. It was a papal bull created by Pope Nicholas V. And this piece of paper, and I want you to follow me and understand what I'm saying. This papal bull was the foundation of witchcraft. It was the foundation of us being hoodwinked and bamboozled. Because if you ever go and read the Dame de Verses, it says that permission was granted to the Portuguese merchants to go into Africa and to enslave them perpetually. And still, in 2022, we're scratching our heads. That's cast over our people. That's cast over our lives. We have to bring back the traditions upon the gods that speak our language. And we have the history and we have the evidence that they're not listening. Of Africa. We have to go and make atonement and say, we are sorry that we have neglected you. We have to reconnect our spirit to our Creator. There's many creators out there, but we have to reconnect with our spirit. The one that gives us the melanin in our skin, to give us the various languages that we speak, that gives us our mores and how we should govern our communities and our kingdoms. You see, culture is the new currency and the key to new African thought. New African thought is embroiled in Sankofa, which is an Akan word of the people of Ghana that means to go back and pick up the gems of the past. was mentioned that the Asian countries suffered colonialism just as African countries. When we look at how the Asian countries turned themselves around, one of the things they did was they re-erected Buddha. They re-erected Taoism. They re-erected Confucianism. And they banned Christianity. They banned all outside foreign religions. Now, historically, we see what they have done and how it has made them successful. If you ever gone to Asian establishment, they have altars to their ancestors at the front door. But we Africans, we're afraid to have an altar for our relatives, for people that we know, for our mothers that birthed us, for our fathers that raised us, for our children that may have gone on before us. We're ashamed. We were taught to be ashamed of our culture. We were taught to be ashamed of our God. And so because we are ashamed, we reflect that shame to the world. The world says, if you can't worship your God, if you can't acknowledge your God, we won't either. The world will do what you command them to do. So I suggest to you today to heal, to explore Munzi. What is inside of you? It is your bloodline. It is the gods of your land. Culture. The Nigerian movie industry has become ranked the third largest film industry in the world. First, there's Hollywood. Second, there's Bollywood. Third, there is Nollywood. There was a movie that was entered for the Oscars through Nollywood. I believe it was called Lion's Heart. And it failed to make the cut. And then Nigerians were angry. They're like, oh, this was a good film. Oh, this is racism, blah, 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 blah. For the first time, I could clearly say that it was not racism, but it was clear the reason why the film was rejected, because they spoke over 98% English, which is not in Nigerian original native language. So in the category of the foreign language films in which they entered, they did not pass. But that was a good thing. It was good because now, a few years later, they get the message that the ancestors said, speak your native language. So now the newer films in Nollywood are coming out speaking Yoruba. One was just released last month, Annie Nilapo. I'm sorry, I might not pronounce it properly. But it is a sensation, and everybody is applauding it because it is in Yoruba. And it is a first-class film. So our ancestors, our gods are telling us to come back to ourselves. Utilize your own culture as the vehicle to propel you forward in this world. Utilize the idea of a closed society, depending upon yourself, Munzi, pulling everything out of your individual country, your individual community, your individual person, to propel yourself into that African Renaissance. You have to go as an African. You cannot go as a Francophone. You cannot go as an Anglophone. You must go as Luba. You must go as Yoruba. You must go as Bassa. You must go as Zulu. You must go as Hausa. You must go as yourself and not a character of what someone else has projected onto you. And it is your originality that is going to push, sustain, and create a legacy for the new African thought. One last thing I want to talk about: negotiating contracts. Being raised in the United States, I get to see things from a different perspective as those that's born on the continent, and vice versa. We get different views. I remember not too long ago, Senegal entered into a contract to have a foreign company mine their simple terms was that the foreign company would come in and mine the gold. That company would take 90% of the profits. Senegal itself would get 10% of the profits. Please, ladies and gentlemen, tell me what is wrong with that picture. The gods of your land deposited that gold in your backyard, giving you possession of that gold. And the greatest thing that you can think, oh, let me call outside to take 90% of the revenues, and I have 10%, and that same country will go to the country and say, oh, these poor Senegalese. Because they had the old thought, which reminds me of the movie Roots. If you remember in the movie, when Kunta Kinte was born, his father held him up to the moon, and he told Kunta, behold, no one greater than yourself. So as an individual, that is my mantra. No one is greater than me. So I share to you. Everyone, lift up their hands. Lift up your hands. Behold, no one greater than Africa. No one greater than Africa. Munzi, I will use everything inside of me to sustain and keep as a legacy the new African thought.
New African thought. Right.
Kwaheri ya kukaona. Goodbye until we meet again.